Hello, welcome back to the Off Grid family. I was doing something that's deadly for someone like myself, which is I was going around Facebook Marketplace just looking for goodies, and I saw a old treadmill and it was broken and they wanted £15 for it, and I had a look at it and it was like, well, I would like to make another treadmill wind turbine, so maybe I'll take a punt at that. And even though my health's been a bit knackered at the moment, I thought, do you know what, George would like to know about making these as well, and we've talked about it a few times, so yeah, do you know what, I'll get it. So I spoke to them and they basically said, look, it's going for free, we don't want it anymore, just get rid of it. So I sent a friend of mine to go and picked it up, brought it back to me. And basically I'm going to now take it apart and get it to the constituent parts that I can recycle, I can use for myself for other projects. The rest of it will go to the tip in various recycling parts of it, so none of it really goes to waste as such. But I won't be making anything in this video, but I would like to talk to you about what I can do with the parts that are there, and then in a future video I'm going to be making a very, very nice wind turbine with a few extra tricks and tips, that kind of thing. Anyway, let's get on. Okay, so we're going to be taking this apart today, and as you can see, it's not in the best condition of its life, but that's not a problem at all. That's why we're taking it apart. Obviously if it's working, I'd just leave it in that incline and I'd just be jogging on it all day, you know, because I'm so fit and healthy, obviously. Yeah, that's a joke, by the way. First thing we need to do then is we need to come around here and try and get this motor to work to be able to lower this thing right down. So this thing here, I'm assuming there's a motor about here that would wind this down and up to make it go up and down, hopefully, and we'll be able to then lower this whole thing down and take the actual treadmill part of it off, because I'm going to need the treadmill motor and I'm going to want the motor out of here as well. So I've got quite a cool plan which I'll talk to you about partway through this. Things like this is worth its weight in gold almost. I'm using this motor and the other motor to make something truly incredible, hopefully. So stay tuned. By the way, the reason I've got a toothbrush is I'm about to just clean all of this here, this worm gear or whatever it is, whatever it's called, and then we're gonna hopefully bring this down. Right, now this was in a barn for ages, so I'm just gonna rub off some of the, you know, the thick amounts of stuff, so we don't really want them getting into the, you know, into the system. So I'm just going to give it a quick toothbrush. Let's get a rag. There you go. Now let's see if we can get this to come down. So here's the motor. I've just obviously cleaned this bit. And now down in here, I'll zoom you in now, I can see some limit switches. There's a limit switch here, there's another one the other side that works backwards. Someone at some point has had this open because there's these little stickers. It's something I used to do years ago. I'd put stickers with numbers on them to figure out where everything went when I couldn't sort of do it in my head. So it's all got little stickers and stuff on, so someone's obviously had this apart at some point. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is start disconnecting these, because believe it or not, we should be able to get enough of these off so we don't have to cut any wires, and we can actually just get our way into the motor because they're all connected to each of the limit switches. Come on. Yeah, someone's tried to fix this, bless them, and obviously didn't have much luck. But these aren't cheap, the ones that recline and so on, they're very expensive. Right, so that is all the wires to our motor, not including the earth wire, which is grounded to this, so the ground. Let's see if we can get this to come down. Now, let's have a look at the actual motor and let's decide what we need to do. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see it, but 230 volts, etc, etc. But I'm going to see what I can do to get it to come down without that much voltage, but we shall see. Otherwise we might have to take the whole thing apart beforehand. Right, I've had a look at the motor and I do think I can get it running off a 12 volt battery, although it's for 230 volts. But I thought to myself, if I start messing about with that, then I'm just going to spend more and more time messing about with different bits rather than getting this thing apart. And while I've got help being able to move it around and stuff, I'm just going to take it apart. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have it moved onto its side and I'm just going to start taking apart, well, getting the actual treadmill part off of it. Just quickly before I do that, I've just realised that this whole panel can come off. So what I'll do is I'll unplug it all, and it's literally all, well, semi-easy to get apart. There might be, no, there shouldn't be too much that I can't, I think I should be able to unplug everything, but if not, I'll just cut a few wires, because I'm not planning on putting this all back together anyway, so. Done. This may have a few fun bits and pieces to take off. We'll have a look at that in more detail later on. Okay, I'm going to attempt to unscrew these two Allen bolts here. Nope. I'm going to unscrew these two bolts here, and then I'm going to get it flipped over again and do the same. And this whole bit should come off, separating the two different motors. There's one in here that I need, and there's one at the bottom I need. So I'm going to try and do that. They shouldn't be too hard. I had them soaking in WD-40 overnight just to make life easier. Yeah. Gave them a bang with a mallet before I started as well. Jeezy crazy, that's a small one, isn't it? Right, I'll get all these out. I'll turn it over and get the other two out as well. And then I will be back. Right, well I can't get the other side off. I even tried to screw this side back in just to give it some lift, but no, I can't get it off. So what I'm going to have to do is dismantle it without removing it, let's say. So this is going to get increasingly more fun as the day goes by. Right, I've taken off two of the bolts down the bottom, and I'm wondering if this is held on through here. And if so, this whole thing might be able to come off now. I may end up having to take off the tracks. I'm not sure. I'm literally just unscrewing things at the moment because I just don't know. What I'm going to do is on each side there is a track that I'm going to take off first, because I think that might be the easy way to go, but I've thought that about many parts of this so far and I've been wrong each time. Right, I'm nearly at the point where I've got this motor off. Everything's a little bit rusty. It was left in a barn, I think, if I remember rightly, and yeah, everything's just a little bit more fiddly than it would have been. My boy is on hand to help me move this around, which is handy as heck because I cannot do it these days. But if I want to keep making videos, I've got to get help from where I can, you know. Right, I think that's it. Nope. Right, that's that off. I had hoped the whole thing would like start to fall somewhere. Damn it. Oh. Okay. Back to square one again. Okay, I stopped recording at the wrong time. A little bit of jiggery pokering and we got the whole thing out. Just took a bit of shaking around. So we've got all of that out, which is awesome. I'm looking forward to playing with that bit. Right, now I'm going to start unscrewing all of this and we're going to see what we can get out from this side. We might have to turn it over and try the other side as well. Right, I couldn't get the sheet off at the back, so what I'm doing now is I'm taking this one off at the front and seeing if we've got any more luck. Did it? Okay, so in here we have all the bits and pieces we want, but this is the main thing. and it's got a lovely little holder for it. The last one I couldn't get the hold, there was nothing to hold it on. It was like clipped to the base, but we might be able to take all of this off and have an actual device to hold our motor on, and it spins much more freely, even though it's connected still to the actual whole thing. The one I last had was very stiff. Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the whole motor, the mount, and we're going to take the bit that connects to here in case we need to gear it down or up or whatever. Let's have a look at this. Oh, by the way, if you ever do this sort of thing, this here is a huge capacitor. This has been unplugged for God knows how long, like we're talking a year, maybe more, so there's no problems, but capacitors can hold a lot of charge and still really hurt you. So just be wary of that. Right, I'm going to take all this off, and I'm going to do it off camera unless something interesting, I find something interesting, because basically this is just going to be unscrewing stuff, and it's fairly straightforward. All the screws are visible, I don't have to remove any other things to get to them, so this should be fairly straightforward. If not, I will come back and I'll show you, what's what, but I'll be back once I've done it. Okay, I got all that off, and like I said, it was all fairly straightforward, fairly easy. Yeah, someone's definitely tried to fix this many times. Right, sorry, I digress. But next I'm going to take off the rollers, and all it is there's like a tightening screw on either side. All I need to do is remove it. I think it might just be on this side, and then I can lift the whole thing out. Again, I'll do that off camera because it's literally unscrewing a screw. Anything happens, and I will show you if it's, if it's worthy of showing you. Okay, so I've removed the bolt that was going through it, and all you need to do normally, this is solid in there, right, never mind. Okay, now we're at the bottom, and I've removed the plastic covers that were at both ends, and I'm going to unscrew these now, and that should free this up, which might hopefully free up the other end, possibly. But this again this whole process is just finding something, trying it, finding something else. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I've done more it doesn't at the moment, but we'll see. We'll hopefully get this off now, and we'll be one step closer to getting everything off. Okay, right, let's see. Yeah, so this comes out of the bottom. Let's take that out. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I've taken the roller out right at the bottom, and now let's see if, there you go. Perfect. And that one should come out. There you go. And we got the belt as well, which is awesome. As I say, I'll show you through all of the bits we've got out of this once we've finished. Right, we're now down to the bare frame, so I'm going to take the whole frame apart as best I can, because I like to keep all the metal I can for different projects, and I've got a specific thing in mind for this one. Whether it will work or not, who knows, but I'd rather keep the metal now rather than buying new stuff later. Right, that's as much as I can get off. Unfortunately, some of the bolts are just so rusted, and someone has tried to take this apart before, so they've actually threaded a lot of the bigger bolts. I don't think they have the right equipment and so on, but I can put this out into the shed, and then I can cut it down as needed, so I'm not particularly bothered. It just would have been nicer to get it into smaller pieces. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sort out the room, and I'm going to show you all the stuff we've managed to salvage. Okay, so this is actually the bit that you'd program all your bits in, and I actually have not looked at the front at all yet. Okay, so there it is. Oh, it's a smart computer. There's quite cool stuff here. For example, this is the, in case you fall off, you don't want it to continue going, connectory bit, which is just simple enough. It's connected to a little limit switch here, and by pulling it out, just releases the limit switch. So we could take this whole section off and use it for something if we so needed. But what I'm going to do quickly now is I'm just going to unscrew the whole thing, get it out, and we'll see what we can salvage from this. Okay. Hardly any screws in that. Okay, so there's various bits and bobs we can keep on here if you want. I sometimes keep capacitors. I very rarely keep anything else. I will be keeping this core here. But other than that, it's not there's not a whole heap of stuff I want to keep. I will keep these connectors here because I actually do have a lot of these type of connectors, so I'll just use them for myself for other projects. But there's not really much there. Now we've got these little well, that wasn't going to work very well, was it? That was out from straight away, so I assume they'd always had a problem with the LCD on this side. But there's not really much I can do with these LCDs. Other people, I'm sure, can do really good things, but I'm just not good enough, so they will not be used. I may take bits of them off to show the kids exactly how they work, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that yet. So that's all the LCDs out. Now I'm going to look into taking this off, and then we can start taking switches and buttons off if there are any. I believe though the buttons are just contact ones. If you have a look at this here, these little lines here, these gold looking lines, basically are just, if you were to touch them with, let's say, a wet finger, it will connect the circuit, and that is basically the buttons. And let me just take these off if they're not connected down yet. So what these do is, these buttons, you press one and it connects the circuit. This little thing here will connect the circuit, and that's all it is. So they don't actually have proper switches as such on here, but I might end up keeping that just because that's pretty cool, and I could make something that needs that, but again, who knows. Right, anyway, okay, so the actual whole thing came off, so I'm definitely going to keep that. Maybe as a little alarm cord or something, so if you want to, you just pull and then the alarm goes off. Who knows, I might end up shoving that in the van somewhere and have it connected up to an alarm system that I'm building at the moment. Don't know. I'm just, shooting out ideas. They may or may not come to fruition, but who knows. Right, and then the only actual switch that's on here is this one here, and it's another up-down jobby, so that would be the same as the one I took off the actual arm of it. And I'm going to connect this to my 3D printer enclosure, because at the moment it's got a remote control, and the remote control is not very good. The range on it is terrible, so I'd just much rather have a switch. Okay, so the first thing we've got is all the wires, and most people sort of overlook wires and they, leave them within whatever they're taking apart and stuff, but I always keep the wires. There's a million things that I need wires for, mainly electric, but no, seriously, I can't quite often need different gauge wires, and wire isn't cheap, so I tend to keep, I've got spools of stuff I use all the time that I actually do buy, but stuff like this, we've got various different pieces, and it just makes life easier. And sometimes, because it's already got spade connectors on, I can literally just cut a piece off and use that for whatever I'm doing at that point. So basically, this is sort of like the first salvageable thing that I always keep from projects. I don't necessarily always keep it, but if it's enough. I don't keep tiny little bits like this. In fact, there's few pieces like this. I will keep these because they've got a spade connector and a connector on the end, but otherwise I would have just thrown this away, well, recycled this. But that's a perfect example. I'd probably chuck that away, although it's also got a spade connector, so I'm not sure. Okay, so this is the electronics that we've got out there. We've got a reset fusey doojit, we've got an on-off switch, we've got two basically push button up down switches or whatever we want to use them for, a tiny little wee switch, and then we've got 4 plus this one actually limit switches, all with different doojits on them, and then a couple of wires. So this is actually genuinely very useful, and I collect all this stuff anyway. I've only ever had to buy a couple of limit switches, so they were tiny ones I needed, but other than that I've always got ones that I've recycled from other projects. So that's that side of things. We got a couple of pieces of metal brackets which I will use for other things in the future. And then this is all the bits and bobs that I've kept that we can now use for other things. We've got all the screws that were okay, washers, little rubber feet things that I'm going to actually use for a compressor project I've got coming up, because I would like my K40 to be much more quiet, and that will be perfect. Various different clamps and so on, and then some big doojits. So, it's all good. One thing I forgot about was this, and I'm going to leave this as is, but this here is obviously quite a nice jumbo capacitor inside there. Let's have a look. is something, I'm not sure what it is. And then we've got a nice little transformer. So I'm going to leave that as is, and I can use that for another project if I need it. And obviously then it's got all of the actual metal casing things, so we can use that for various projects. I always like to keep things like this because, you know, screw that on something, now you've got a base for whatever you're doing. So yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff in there that was pretty cool. Okay, so this is the rubber that, you know, you'd actually run on, and I always keep this. This could be used for so many different things. So I've got 2 of these, and I've cut bits out of the other one to use for other things. But as I say, I always keep this because it's just useful and it's really, really strong. Okay, so we have the actual main motor that we, you know, the whole reason we got this, and it spins really, really nicely. The last one I made a wind turbine out of, it was very, very clunky. It was very, very heavy to turn, but this one seems much, much better. And in the next few weeks, I'm going to get this set up, and we're going to have a look to see if, you know, how many volts and amps we can get out of this thing, and just have a little bit of a play around with this. So keep your eyes peeled. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. Next, and finally, we have this beauty. Now this, I'm hoping to either do one of 2 things with. Number 1, make a HDPE press that will crush the HDPE, the heated up HDPE, into a flat sheet or a block, etc. Or I'm going to use this to lift up our wind turbine, so it's on top of our van and it lifts up, so then we can use it as a wind turbine, and then it will close back down when we drive. I haven't decided, but in the next video, like not the very next video, but in the next video where I do this sort of thing, we're going to see about getting this running on 12 volts and just have a mess around, see what sort of loads it can take, etc. So stick around for that one. I hope you will enjoy it. Okay, so there's quite a lot within this treadmill that we can use, not even just for a wind turbine and so on and so on. There's just a lot of usable parts, and with everything I take apart, I try and keep as much of the bits and bobs as I can. I don't buy things that most people would have to go out and buy if they start a new project, because I've just got it somewhere lying around. The one thing I will say is, if you do start to sort of collect things like this, make sure you've got a good storage system. Otherwise, there's no point in having it if you're never going to find it. I'm very lucky because my brain works in such a strange way that I sort of know where everything is, no matter how cluttered it is, let's say. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.